Hello, this is Father Michael Nasser coming to you from St. Nicholas Orthodox Church here in Grand Rapids, Michigan, with this week's Midweek Reflection. And sadly, this week I'm reflecting on the tragedy we heard about in another shooting, another mass shooting at a school in Texas. Um, Another tragic event. And, of course, we hear now the echoings of everybody who says they have the solution. And, of course, we jump to political solutions. We jump to those from the political left and the political right, and that debate is going to rage, and then it'll settle down, and sadly, probably till the next one, it'll rage again. What we're not going to hear a lot about, but I think we need to think more about, is what is at the core of not just shootings like that. What is at the core of everything that's wrong with this world? And that is what some people would call evil, what we would even call evil, but also just anything that is bad, anything that lacks the fullness of the goodness of God. That's really what evil is. Evil is what divides us or anyone from that full and complete goodness of God. And sadly, we're not going to hear about that as a cause, but that's the cause of everything that is wrong with this world. And if you look at how we're handling things, it seems that more and more as a society, we've turned our back on God. We've said he doesn't exist, or if we acknowledge he exists, he's not the good and loving God that literally gave everything so that we could have everything. That's the truth of God. That's the truth of his goodness, of his love, his peace, and all the wonderful things that he gives us, which is the fullness of everything good. And then when we don't receive that fullness and we put something else in, namely what is evil, what is not of God, what is bad, the more that we do that, the less goodness of God that we have, the more we get to the horrific tragedies that we saw play out once again yesterday. You're not going to hear a lot about this. In fact, in some ways, you're going to hear horrible things about turning to God. I heard F your prayers uttered by U.S. elected representatives saying we don't want that as an answer, we want a certain political solution. I'm not here to debate politics. I'm here to say that no matter what your politics are, unless we return to obtaining and receiving the fullness of the goodness of God, not just things like that are going to happen, things worse and things that seemingly don't get our attention, all the quote-unquote little things that we do on a daily basis or see others do that lack the fullness of the goodness of God. His goodness is the only solution to what is bad. Not my goodness, not your goodness, not somebody else's goodness. Whatever goodness is there, if it's real goodness, it comes from God. If it's just mine and not from God, then it's worthless. It's passing. It's nothing. We have to understand as Orthodox Christians that only by increasing the goodness of God in our lives do we invite the goodness of God to be reflected and encouraged and developed in other people's lives. It's the only answer. So amid all the debates we're going to hear about how to fix things and more guns and less guns and all these other things we're going to hear, I hope we reflect on the reality at the heart of anything that is bad in this world is the absence of the one who is good, who is Jesus Christ, the perfect image of his Father. So no matter what you're going to hear about solutions, we know the truth. And what can we do about it? Develop that goodness within ourselves. That's the best way to invite that goodness to grow in other people. That's a solution. For all of our problems, that's a solution. So I hope we reflect as we mourn the sadness and the tragedy. I hope we don't lose sight of the reality of what is the solution, which is the goodness of God. And anything we can do to grow that with our prayer, with our love for each other, with our just reflection and meditation, all that is good. That's what's going to help make this world better. Ultimately, this world's going to pass away, and then we get to enjoy the fullness of the goodness of God in the kingdom if we live our lives here in that goodness, which leads us to the goodness in its fullness there. If you found this helpful, please share it with your friends via social media, and God willing, we'll see you in next week's video. Christ is risen.